our first public and membership short story contest celebration. I'm Susan Korn, President of the Gold Country Writers. Thank you for being here to celebrate the finalists and the winners of our first short story contest. We planned a full program today featuring our keynote speaker, Laurel Ann Hill. Also, I want to thank our sponsors. The contest and celebration event are supported in part by the Arts Council of Placer County, Auburn Arts Commission, Gold Country Media, Poets and Writers, also with the support provided by the City of Auburn, Starbucks Coffee in Auburn, and Face in the Book store. It's a bookstore called Face in the Book, and it has gifts, and it's in El Dorado Hills Town Center. They have been very generous to us. Gold Country Writers is proud to offer education, support, and resources to writers and to the community as a whole. With nearly 86 members, we have programs and special events to encourage writers of all levels in skill development and networking. I want to add, many fine friendships have been established over the years. Please refer to your brochures for meeting dates and times. We usually meet here in Auburn City Hall in the Rose Room. Certain programs are free and open to the public. You will hear more about our drop-in critiques and spin-off critique groups and speaker programs later on in this program. You will hear about our various programs we offer to all members and to the public. When there are fifth Wednesdays of the month, we have various social events or writers' retreats. Gold Country Writers is a 501c3 nonprofit organization run by many volunteers who contribute their expertise to make all numerous programs and activities possible. Our executive officers, board of directors, and other volunteer leadership for committing their time and effort to ongoing projects. Volunteers, both past and present, please stand up. All right, you guys that are Gold Country Writers that break your neck to make this possible, so please stand up and let's give them a hand. A lot of hard work there. Regarding the contest, congratulations to the finalists. Before we announce the winners, we are presenting our keynote speaker and then sharing more about Gold Country Writers. Now I am pleased to present our keynote speaker, Laurel Ann Hill. Laurel Ann Hill's most recent fantasy magical realism young adult novel, Plague of the Flies, Revolt of the Spirits, 1846, has received 17 awards.
Wow.
Ms. Hill is a 20-year member of California's Writers Club, San Francisco Peninsula Branch, and a member of the Broad Universe Wicked Women Writers and Women Writing the West. Over 30 short stories and many of her nonfiction pieces have been published. She participates in several science fiction, fantasy conventions. Her current writing projects include a novel set in early California, She's presenting today A Short Story is Not a Very Short Novel. Let's welcome Laurel Ann Hill.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm honored and delighted to have shown up and have an opportunity to speak about one of my favorite favorite subjects, which is the short story. And I have a special thank you to all you who entered the Gold Country Writers Contest. Every one of the stories that I received, I only received a limited number of them, to read and to judge who will be the finalists and the winners, was just wonderful. They were all different. They all had strengths. They all had a little bit of weakness here or there, but overall they were just so enjoyable, and I can't thank you enough for having the opportunity to read them. Over 30 years ago, I started writing as an adult. Although I did plenty of technical writing since my college days, the most creative thing that I wrote every year was my annual Christmas letter. And I actually started writing stories before I could read. My older sister would write down the words I'd tell her, and then I'd decorate them. She'd put them in these tablets, and I'd decorate them with pictures I'd cut out of magazines and comic books, and I was so proud of them. My first published short story was in the children's section of a major San Francisco newspaper when I was 11 years old. Wow! The problem is, every once in a while, we get something published and we need to humble ourselves a little bit. I go back and I read that story, and I groan. And because, well, thank goodness I've gotten better, or else nothing ever would have been published again. I still wonder if that was the only one submitted. But I earned enough money in high school writing essay contests because I wanted to go to college. And I earned enough to pay for 4 years of tuition and books at San Francisco State. And so, that was a big deal. Financially, we were poor. My father was an alcoholic. We had 3 generations of a family living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom rental flat. And so it was just fantastic to have had that opportunity. It changed my very life. Now, during the last 2 years of high school, I wrote a short story for a contest by Macy's, and I won. And I got to go to Macy's in downtown San Francisco to the teen department and pick out any outfit I wanted free. But writing back then as a teen and writing as an adult when I became 50 were 2 different kettles of fish. Back when I was a teen, I knew a few things about writing, and I just have to take those and use my imagination and produce a story or an essay with fewer errors than anybody else. And so that's what I did. But when I got to 50, the competition had changed. It wasn't just a bunch of teenagers in a high school in San Francisco, in any of the public schools, but it was people from all over the United States and sometimes beyond, and they were all good writers, and I wasn't. So that was a major, major change in my attitude. Now, have you ever seen that old movie from the 1960s, those magnificent men in their flying machines?
Yeah.
Okay, the theme song went, those magnificent men and their flying machines, they went up, dilly up, they went down, down, up, down, flying around, looping the loop and defying the ground. As adult writers, we need craft in order to loop that figurative writing loop, and we need craft to defy that figurative writing ground, which equates to failure. So, I don't know about you, but on a bad writing day, I'm lucky to remember to put fuel in the tank. In 1975, I married a widower, and he had a single-engine plane. And that was a lot of fun. I married an older man. So once a friend of his, who was also a pilot, needed to power the plane to go somewhere. And so he lent it to him. And when his friend was up in the air thousands of feet, the engine decided it was time to die. And he was a good pilot. And he glided that airplane into a small local airport, landed it safely, no engine, nothing working, and there was minimal damage.
Wow.
Now, he knew exactly what the history of that plane was, that it had once been a seaplane which could glide. And he also knew what that plane couldn't do. So that was a perfect situation for survival of both him and the plane. Writing is like that. When we work with a short story, we need to know what the short story can do and should do and what it should not do. Now, I'm sure you've all heard about the story arc, right? You've got the beginning, the middle, the climax, the change or no change, the resolution, and the end. And I have a different way of looking at that story arc because I took ballet as, I wasn't quite a senior citizen then. It was between age 40 and 50 because my daughter was taking ballet and I wanted to know what she was doing and going through. So I have in my, I think this is about right, 5th position. Anybody ever here take ballet? You go to the ballet? Okay. In my ballet arc, the story starts over at this elbow, and it ends at this elbow, okay? And it starts out, something happens, which makes something else happen, which makes something else happen, and it goes along until we get to closing up to the end. Now, the really important part about this is to notice that the crooks of the elbow are not very large. So if you try to stuff too many words in there, the reader can't get through. They roll down to your armpit. Now, if you go along and you're getting to the end and you're putting in all this stuff that should have gone in the middle, they can't get through. They roll down to the other armpit. So remember, when you're writing, keep your readers out of the armpits. The beginning, which is your first paragraph or two of the short story, is really critical to hooking the reader, as we call it, grabbing the reader's interest. Bulwer Lytton's "It was a dark and stormy night" no longer works if it ever did. I'd like to read the opening paragraphs of 3 of my short stories to show you, the craft of doing this. Let me just move this closer so I don't fall flat on my face. I'm as old as probably most of you, if not older. Moon Flame Woman. The crumbling rock on the vertical face of the mountain yielded to Cho Ting Lam's probing finger. It clung like crushed grains of rice to the crevice between her nail and skin. Her next target had a weak spot. Good. Well, I don't know about you, but the first thing I would think of is, what was her target? What was her last target? What happened to the last target? So the reader is drawn in to see what is going to happen, and I'll just read the following paragraph. The lowered hanging basket holding her in the air swayed as she changed position, and the late morning wind strengthened. Suspended ropes held by old Master Yi and his men far above her now snagged on jagged stone. Yet this Sierra mountain was not her only adversary. Also formidable was that barbarian Superintendent Brockton Tim. If only she knew Brockton's weak spot, she would target his corresponding lack of enlightenment. So that tells us a little bit more. You know, we have this Asian woman and she's Chinese, and she is obviously working on the mountains, in the face of the mountains. And essentially, she was disguised as a man, unmarried, and working with the railroad crew to blast holes into the mountain. So that's the first story. The next one, the 13th maggot. And yes, I said maggot. I count the bioengineered maggots in the Petri dish. They glisten like bean threads wet with broth. 13? What the F is going on? Yesterday, I inoculated this tissue culture plate with 12 medical maggots. Tallied the larvae before and after placement onto this cozy bed of cells. Now, yesterday's 12 little buggers add up wrong. I adjust the optivisor on my head. Time to count again. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward there. You see you've got a researcher of bioengineered maggots, you know, and on her tissue culture plate, and it doesn't come out right. So let me just read the second paragraph, and you learn a little bit more. My inner tension presses the ball of my sore foot against the gel cushion in my shoe. Ouch, damn splinter from my apartment's shitty deck. Never go barefoot to water outdoor plants in the dark. I jiggle my headband magnifier and shift my butt on the laboratory stool in front of my biosafety cabinet. This week, I'm totally responsible for the setup of Project 12, maggot strain 39 experiments. 1 maggot, 2, 3. Please don't let this be a screw up. I can't afford one. Now, obviously, you're worried about the fact that she has the wrong number of maggots on her plate, and she's worried about it. But what you might have not paid attention to is the fact she has a sore foot because she got some splinters in it. Well, this is in a horror anthology, so just think. Bioengineered maggots, an open wound. That sounds like trouble's going to happen. And that's only, and actually that's less than 2 paragraphs. It's the first paragraph and part of the second. The third one, also a horror anthology, Horrible Disasters. Till Death Do Us Part. Gusts of hot northeast wind swept across Berkeley, threatening to scatter Luke's ashes over the amber hillsides. Nelda wouldn't let that happen. The chunky mess of spousal charcoal in her galvanized bucket was headed for a far more fitting final resting place. The septic tank of the furnished rental cottage she'd shared with Luke since 1913. Nelda's grip on her garden trowel tightened. till death do us part and good riddance. Okay, so that's not your usual opening of a story, a widow is going to dump her husband's remains into the septic tank. So she's obviously got a reason for doing it. So let me just read part of the next paragraph and you get a little bit more idea of what's going on. "I'll get you for spoiling my luck," Lucan said. "Roast you alive, I will." Nelda never would forget the way Luke had bellowed at her, but he'd spoiled his own luck. Croaking the night he'd hollered those words. September 10th, 1923, 6 days ago. Rotten louse. Why had she put up with the likes of him for 10 years? Now, Luke is dead and likely deserves to be, but this is a horror anthology. Is Nelda really rid of him? And a good horror reader will think, that might not go so well. So they'll want to find out what happens. Beginnings, like endings, are critical to the success of each short story. Now, the nature of the short story differs from longer forms. And have you ever heard of L. Rust Hills? Okay, he was once the editor of Esquire magazine. That was probably back in the 1950s. But he's known also for a book that he put out in 1977, Writing in General and the Short Story in Particular. In it he wrote, "A short story tells of something that happened to someone." Notice that L. Rust Hills did not say, "A short story tells of everything that happened to everybody," which if you've ever read a novice's short stories, sometimes you find, and certainly mine were that way. Something to happen to someone differentiates the short story from a longer work because you only have one point of view character. Something that happens to someone differentiates a short story from a character sketch, which the character remains static. Nothing happens to them. The plot of a short story should move the character, even if only in a slight way. In the short story, the character encounters a fork in the road, and they either continue and they go on to the new road, or they just continue and stay on the old road. But once they pass the new road by, there's no going back. They have no longer access to that potential change in their life. Now, many years before L. Rust Hills, Edgar Allan Poe defined a short story as a work of prose that can be read in one sitting. So that has a lot of room to it because, they were thinking maybe 20 minutes to an hour. But I know people who could sit for hours and read without getting up. So that's, not the best definition. But then Anton Chekhov came along, and he was a physician in Russia, and he captured the Russian life of his time in a simple technique in a short story. And this technique was free of using obtrusive literary devices. So when you read his stories, they seem simplistic, but they're not. They're really very, very good. And notice that Chekhov did not try and write the Russian novel in a very, 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 very short form. And unlike some new authors that try and do that, just remember, short story, one character, point of view character, short period of time, you know, that type of thing. Now, the average short story today is around 1,000 to 7,500 words. And some are larger than that, and some 1,000 words or below, and those are usually referred to as flash fiction. Now, Elbrest Hills claimed that the successful contemporary short story will demonstrate a more harmonious relationship to all its aspects than will any other literary art form, excepting perhaps their poetry. And essentially, the short story provides a single and unique effect toward which every word contributes. In simple English, this means avoid subplots, avoid elaborations of secondary characters, and don't use more than one point of view character saying it again. Everything in a short story, characters, story, theme, should enhance everything else, should interrelate to everything else, and should be inseparable from everything else. And the author gets to accomplish all of this while maintaining a necessary and perfect economy of the content. Translation, no extraneous garbage. And now in the US, most of the successful short stories are being written with a point of view either in close third or in first person. And this instead of the omniscient narration. And this gives the reader a feeling of the characters', you know, thoughts and opinions directly. I have a short comment to make about the plot of a short story versus a novel. In a novel, you can have the story going along and the plot and linked to it, but somewhat independent will be thoughts and comments of the author that may be in the form of the just description, it may be in the form of the point of view characters thinking or in discussions, and will be his point of his ideas to sprinkle in that he wants you to consider while you're going along enjoying the plot. And in a short story, you don't do that, or you shouldn't do that. You can, but you may not. And plot in a short story is never there for its own sake. Any action in a short story has to contribute to the whole thing. Now, for example, in Moonflame Woman, Brockton Tim needs enlightenment. Cho Ting Lam, unmarried, childless, and disguised as a man, needs to restore her feeling of self-worth. The plot action, blasting cavities in mountains to build railroad tunnels, will facilitate the meeting of both needs. Now note that what Elbrest Hills equated to successful short stories, he was talking about character-based fiction, literary fiction. And as opposed to the slick short fiction of his time, which was more likely genre. But today things have changed. Genre fiction has gotten much more literary, and it is quality fiction. So, and it's replaced most of the old slick fiction that was there back in the 50s and the 60s. Now, I belong to the California Writers Club SF Peninsula branch, and I have been the editor-in-chief for 3 Fault Zone anthologies, the prose editor for 1, and a proofreader for 2 earlier versions. And I just wanted to read results of the classifications of errors of writing that I found when I went through the last 70 stories that were submitted for me for Fault Zone detachment. 6 had no story arc or insufficient story arc. 11 had more than one point of view character. 13 set the story over a period of years instead of a shorter time frame. And 18, over 25% lacked cohesiveness connections between all the story's parts. Now, part of this was due to the fact that some people, they could submit fiction, which was the true short story, and nonfiction, which was creative nonfiction, but we wanted them all submitted in short story form if possible, which was not always possible. But if they strayed too far from that, we didn't accept it. However, I've always worked with our authors when I've been the editor to try and get their stories into shape for publication. And I've been pretty successful in that. And our last anthology, which was Fault Zone Reverse, actually won a gold medal in the Independent Press Award anthology. And it also won another smaller prize somewhere. I can never remember which one that was. It's written down on my computer. So, in summary, summarizing the key elements of a short story: simplified setting, one time, one place, characters, one or two, may be introduced without full backstories, one point of view. Short stories typically focus on a single plot instead of multiple subplots. And some stories follow the traditional narrative arc, which you have a beginning, and it builds, your action, it builds to a climax. But the modern short story is more likely to start in the middle of a dramatic scene and then use backstory. And that I showed that in my three pieces, how I did that. And while short stories of the past have often revolved around a central theme or a moral lesson, these days you find more short stories that have ambiguous endings. Now, these are not inconclusive endings. These are ambiguous endings that you don't necessarily know how it really ended, but you have options and you can figure out what suits you, depending on how you read it. And in the stories in most of the short stories that I write, I don't really have ambiguous endings, but I do have options for multiple endings. And because of either the determination of the point of view character or the utter despair of the point of view character, the reader can usually find out an ending that will agree with what they think, and usually be a little bit surprised by it, which is part of it you want to. You don't want them to guess your ending. And endings, like beginnings, are critical to the success of each short story. The odds of getting a short story published today: literary stories are still accepted by literary magazines like The New Yorker and Atlantic. And there are plenty of anthologies, contests, non-literary publications that feature short stories. Small publishers are often looking for them. And if you go online, you can find lists of short stories that are accepting in any particular year. Know your genre. Romance has its own set of rules. Speculative fiction has others. If you go to trade shows, check and see if anybody is asking, for submissions to a short story collection. And be careful before you send any short story off to anything but a major magazine that you know about, because there's some advertisers out there, they're really scammers, some of them, and they can sneak their names into lists. They might put out a list, and most of them will look like other lists with, reliable, real publishers, and then they'll sneak several of theirs in that you'll stumble across them accidentally, and it could have not a happy ending. So authors can self-publish on Amazon, but don't expect your stories to go whizzing off these shelves, because it takes a lot of work to sell, to sell something you've written on Amazon. And make sure that if you decide to use an ambiguous ending, don't leave the reader unsatisfied. Don't make sure the ending works. Make sure that it does not involve the main driving force of the story or the main conflict between two characters. And as for short story collections, there are good ones being published. You're not going to earn a lot of money on them, but you will get a publishing credit. And so that's, you know, for people certainly of our age, that's still a big deal. That's a big deal. If you can get a publishing credit now, even if you've gotten many before, every time you get another one. And for those who don't have one, just keep trying. Go to those critique groups. The Gold Country Writers have them. And I started out with critique groups, and my mentor moved away from me. And that's when I stopped. The group was never quite the same after that. So thank you for your time, and best of luck in your writing endeavors. You know, writing is a passion. We don't necessarily choose to write. Something inside compels us. We have to write. So let's give our readers the best stories we can.
My name is Frank Nissen. I'm part of Gold Country Writers, and I am the custodian of the drop-in critique activity of our club. In my way of thinking, it is the essential core of the group. It's the reason for being, the reason that I joined, it's the reason I'm still here. The twice monthly drop-in critiques are quite literally the backbone of Gold Country Writers. It's really kind of simple. You bring 5 pages and you sit at a table with 5 or 6 other people who also have things to read, and you share your knowledge and your experience and your thoughts and your feelings about each piece that's presented. We most of the time can be pretty supportive. But it's honest stuff. I mean, we don't do anybody any favors by just saying, oh, that's nice. The quality of the critique, the quality of the thoughts and the energy that's put into assessing the work that's presented is meant to help us be better writers, which is our motto, Forging Better Writers. And I think that's all there is to say about that.
Hi, I'm Sarah Pressler, and I have the pleasure of being the director of the spin-off critique groups. From the drop-in critique groups evolved a natural desire for more genre-specific groups, so spin-off groups were born of that. The numbers of writers involved with the spin-off groups have been so numerous to warrant the need for both specific and general groups. So those of you that prefer numbers over letters, count with me. We have children's literature, evening critique, evening mixed genre, flash fiction, inspirational group, memoir critique, memoir share, mystery and thriller, novel, book fast track, novel group, poetry, and science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah.
Many of the groups are full, and some of them are open to more members, and we do meet at various homes, coffee shops, restaurants, at the Rose Room after drop-ins. We haven't had to start haunting the parks and trees yet, but we're open to that. New groups open as members come forward, and we'll help you look for a group to work with. So you can contact me after this presentation today. If you're interested, I'll be sitting at the table with Laurel Hill. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I am Margie E. Webb, Director of Speaker Programs. And Go Country Riders is pleased to offer speaker programs each month, except in August and December. These speaker presentations or workshops are open to the public. They're on the third Wednesday of the month from 10 a.m. to noon here at Auburn City Hall in the Rose Room. This month, Wednesday, October 18th, we have author Mara Eckneff-Klein. She will be presenting Food and Fables in Fiction Writing. She is the author of 2 novels with recipes. Next month, on Wednesday, November 15th, we have author James Natwell. He will be presenting Building Author Bookstore Relationships. And he is the author of several crime thrillers. So again, no meeting in December, but in January 17th, 2024, we have the El Dorado Hills Poet Laureate Emeritus, Laura Gillard. And she will be presenting a workshop called Is It a Prose Poem or Flash Fiction? And she is the author of 2 poetry books. And again, all our speaker programs are open to the public. They're free to attend. So writers, readers, fans are invited to attend. And for details, we have flyers downstairs, and you can pick up flyers and on the information table. Also, visit our website, GoCountryWriters.com. So you'll find information on our speakers, on our various activities, on the critique groups that were described. And don't forget to look at our newsletter. Yeah. Yes, Lisa Schiff, our newsletter editor, put all this information in a monthly newsletter so you can read up on our activities, our speakers, and our members' accomplishments. And if you have any questions on the speaker programs, please see me afterwards. We'll be downstairs. And now, we have a real treat for you. We're going to have some creative fun and give you an opportunity to become flash fiction writers. We have a group activity called Winning One-Sentence Stories. So leading this activity is Susan M. Osborne, PhD, MSW. She is an author of several books and is currently teaching a flash fiction course for the Renaissance Society at Sac State. And later this month, she will be teaching a course for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, OLLI, at Sierra College. The course is on how to see what's around us from 6 perspectives. So let's welcome Susan Osborne.
Thank you, Margie. The skill of creating one-sentence stories has direct application to the importance of developing the first sentence in a story or book. Ursula Le Guin said, "The opening can cast a spell, grab your attention like a starter gun, set the tone, and even foreshadow what's to come." Several examples of one-sentence stories that have the potential to introduce longer stories are: the old man dragged his dead wife's body through the swamp toward the alligator's nest. "Why don't you trust me?" she typed and sent it to both the guys. "My wedding cost $6,000 and my divorce cost $16,000, but both were worth it." Next up,
is Rebecca Partridge, who is chair of the Gold Country Writers Short Story Contest 2023. Thank you, Susan. Hi! It's good to see all of you. This contest has been a long time in the making. Our organization is 10 years old. We had our anniversary last year. And I've been a member for a few. And I want to be honest with you all. I would not have kept writing, and I would not have gotten 2 books published this year if it was not for GCW. So thank you, and I'm sure other people feel the same way. So I'd like to also thank everybody that got involved in helping us take that next step towards supporting local authors and putting this contest on. We had 56 entries.
Wow.
Some members, some not, some from Placer County, many not. So this was an extension of our reach and our ability to give aspiring writers a chance to get a publication credit and get the experience of submitting stories to contests. This would not have happened if Sherry Anderson had not submitted a grant to the Art Council of Placer County. It would not have happened without the help of all those people on the committee for this event, which are listed on your brochure. There are too many for me to list now. It'd be like the Oscars. We don't want that. And it would not have happened without the anonymous judges who gave their time without any chance of glory, of any chance of recognition, and read through them, and then sat at my kitchen table debating and debating because it was really hard. And I was so glad I didn't have a vote because I was the chair, so I was just the moderator. And I don't know how they did it. And so to the contestants, I would like to thank you most of all, because if you did not have the gumption to put yourself out there and submit a story, we wouldn't have had a contest. And as an author, I know how hard that is, because chances are you're not going to win the contest you enter. You're not going to get accepted in a magazine that you submit to, not every time at least. But if you never submit a story, you will never get published. So we want to get people over that fear and understand that as part of the writer's life. And so to those of you who didn't make the finalist list, it's okay, I know it hurts, but there were some darn good stories in there. And so keep going, keep trying, because you cannot succeed if you do not try. With that said, I won't stall anymore. It is time to read off the finalists. Let me grab a sample plaque. Where do I go? So, all the finalists get a framed certificate. Please see me after the ceremony or down at the reception. And when I read out the list, audience, please feel free to cheer and clap and applaud and encourage them, because this is a moment that a lot of writers never get. All right? So I'm going to go alphabetically by title, because that's how it's in the brochure. And after I read the 10, then we find out third, second, and first. Are you all in anticipation? Yeah. All right. All right. A Wave of Karma by Judith Ornke. Cookie and Bunch by Sandra K. Sullivan. Happy Thoughts by Dennis Mahoney.
McCain Takes a Bullet, Thomas Whitfield. Saving Angela by Kathleen Ward. And I am going to mangle this next one, so go ahead and laugh at me. There's no avoiding it. The Savalonskanitsky Gold Golf Course by Elaine Taylor. Superstar by Marcia Porter. Triple by Philip Jacques. And Where's Daddy by Jolie Roberts. Somebody signaling me.
This one. Joan Griffin.
How could I have done that? Reflections of Water by Joan Griffin. I didn't want to seem like it was favoritism since she's one of my clients, so that was it. So with those read, the drum roll, please. All right. The way this is going to work, I will call the person up. Third place will come up. They will read one page of their story. I hope they're ready. And then stand and wait. Second place will come up, do the same. And then first place, you're going to have the treat of them reading their entire story, but after we have the photo up. And were you all aware that the winners not only got $50, $75, or $100, they're getting it in gold coins. Sherry made up these great little sacks. All right. So, third place. Are you all ready? All right. It's Where's Daddy by Jolie Roberts. Jolie, if you will come on up. And Jolene, if you will go ahead and reread your title and then your first page.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor. The title of my short story is Where's Daddy? I don't know if I should laugh or cry. Renee came out of her bedroom this morning looking like a little waif. She had obviously dressed herself in the same grubby clothes she wore yesterday. Her shirt was on backwards and inside out. She had on one sock, the other sock would probably be tough to ever find. And her underpants, good God, were on the outside over the top of her regular pants. At least they are dry, I hope. The bed sheets might be another story. I'll need to check as soon as I get the chance. Please, God, I don't know how much more I can take of this endless bed-wetting, sheet-changing routine. Better adjust my attitude, pretend I'm not tired of it all, or I'm not going to make it through the day. Good morning, Irene. How about we find some fresh, comfy clothes for you to put on? No, I'm hungry. I want to eat right now. If she's anything, she's determined and knows what she wants. The buzz of a headache is starting between my eyes. With Renee already plunked in her chair at the breakfast table, her feet swinging a few inches off the floor, she's giving me that "what's taking you so long" look. I have no choice. I hustle to fix her plate. I set half a banana, toast with jam, a peeled hard-boiled egg, a small glass, half full, of orange juice in front of her before she can tell me she's hungry another 15 times. I breathe a sigh of relief as she takes a bite of toast and chews it slowly. Where's Daddy? Is he coming to get me today? Bigger sigh. This is always the toughest question. I run water over a set of reading glasses that are crusty with chunks of unidentifiable gunk and finger smudges, and then wipe them off with a dish towel as I try to come up with an answer. Or at least an answer that would help Rini feel secure about things, like her life without her daddy in the picture. I'm sure your daddy is busy working hard. Maybe you'll get to see him later. Where do you suppose he is right now? Several crumbs tumble from the side of Rini's mouth and fall into her lap. He's at work? It sounds more like a question than a statement. She looks at me to see if she's guessed correctly. I nod and smile at her. I'll bet you're right. And where do you think he works? I set the clean glasses on the counter. She continues to stare at me with hope in her eyes. Maybe out where we used to live, she says with her mouth full.
Trophy break here for the next, so we can do a photo op. All right, so in case that whet your appetite and you want to know how the story ends, our sponsor, Auburn Journal, is going to run the entirety of all 3 of the winning stories. So please support our local newspaper, keep an eye open, and buy copies so they can see that little bump in their sales. So the next year, we get the same deal. All right, in second place, with her story, Bookie and Bunch, Sandra K. Sullivan. Please come up and be ready to read your first page of your story. So as you guys are listening, I can hear the Gold Country writers analyzing after what Laurel Ann Hill went through teaching you. And isn't it interesting to hear the variety of ways that you're going to in these 3 that successfully start a story?
Hi, it's a real honor to be here and to have won second place. It's awesome. This is my very first time for entering a contest with my Okay. Thump, thump. The sound reverberated around the walls inside the small outhouse. Viola gathered her petticoats into her lap and leaned as far forward as she could. Crack! A dirt clod sailed through the crescent moon, cut high in the door, and exploded against the back wall in a shower of dirt. Damn you, Vernie Jack, you just wait, scolded Viola, finishing as quickly as she could. Mother'll tan the hide off your backside if she hears you swearing like that, came the response from outside. Viola opened the door and stepped out into the winter warmth of the southern Arizona desert, just as 13-year-old Vernie was in a wind-up for another throw. She walked up to her older brother, who was the mirror image of herself, slender build, gray eyes, and curly dark blonde hair. How come you're so late? She asked, as if the assault of dirt clods never happened. Miss Anderson asked me to wash the blackboards after I finished sweeping the floors and filling the inkwells. She said she'd pay me an extra 5 cents, said Vernie, walking past her toward the outhouse. Well, you owe me 14 cents as of today, Viola called out to him. I'll pay you tomorrow afternoon. Miss Anderson always pays me on Friday after school, he replied without looking back. By then, you'll owe me 20 cents and I'll be as rich as you, Mr. So Smart he does math better than his teacher, but can't remember to take his own lunch to school. If it wasn't for me, you'd starve to death. Viola waited for her brother to close the door of the outhouse before she picked up a dirt clod. She started to wind up and prepared to throw it when she heard her 17-year-old sister Margaret call from the back door. "Violi, have you seen Bunch?" Vernie had been Bunch for as long as she could remember, mostly because he was too smart for his own good and was always in a bunch of trouble. "He just got home. Want me to send him in?" "No. Dad needs him to saddle a horse and run a ham over to the Newmans." Viola let loose with a dirt clod and watched it sail through the crescent moon with satisfaction. Vernie's own, "Damn it, Bookie, that hurt," was even more satisfying because she hated being called Bookie. Vernie's attempt to say baby when she was born came out Bookie, and the name had stuck. Viola returned to her seat under the canvas awning that was part of the roof of their tent house, picked up her book, and lost herself in the world of Robinson Crusoe as she continued the chore of churning cream fresh from the morning's milking into sweet butter. Margaret came out onto the side porch where Viola was sitting. She had a smudge of flour on her cheek from the cornbread she was making for supper. Viola's eyes lit up. "Did the Sears and Roebuck catalog come in the mail? Mother said I could order a new pair of stockings. I want to order a pair of white ones. All the girls in the magazine pictures are wearing them." "Mother will never let you wear white stockings. You're only 10 years old. You'll order black ones," said Margaret, turning to go back in the house.
So before we announce the grand prize winner, I would like to take a moment, and if the audience doesn't mind, let's applaud each and every person who went ahead and entered. Because that's time and effort. So, here's your certificate. And the winning story, first place, and the recipient of $100 in gold coins, and the story to be published in the Auburn Journal along with the other three, is Philip Jacques Triple. So, as Philip makes his way up here, sit back, relax, close your eyes, enjoy a story and a performance. Oh, he's got to get his He needs his manuscript. In the meantime, I'll let you, oh wait, we need a picture first.
Yeah.
So Philip, come on over here, let's get a picture of the three winners, and then we'll let these two nice ladies sit down so we don't have to stand the entire time. All right. Without further ado, don't take yours.
Memorized.
All right.
Wow. Thank you so much. I am pleased and shocked to be standing here. All right, so, triple. "Take your base," the umpire yells, motioning the batter to first on the call, ball 4. Runners advance, loading the bases, no outs. Damn. Slapping my glove against my knee, I approach the mound to talk with Russ. Kevin jogs up from the home plate, all chest protector, face mask, and slapping shin guards. 3 11-year-old boys huddle up, the weight of the world heavy upon us. "What's the problem?" Kevin smacks the ball into Russ's glove. "Don't know," Russ mumbles. "Can't seem to find it. The zone, you know." Yeah, Kevin responds. "But you got to, Russ. This is the last inning and we only lead by 1. "That ain't much, Russ." I put my hand on his shoulder. "You got to get control of yourself and pitch, damn it. The next batter at fifth. The bomber." Kevin's hot. He has his twisted face nose to nose with Russ He kills it every time, Russ. Throw it down and outside. Kevin turns in a huff to home plate, taking a few steps before looking over his shoulder at Russ. Don't miss.
Slow down.
Slow down, I'm sorry. I'm an actor, but I'm nervous because it's my own stuff. A fastball down and outside to a right-handed batter means a one-hopper straight to me, the shortstop. I jog back, stopping at my usual spot, but thinking of the pitch, I move closer to the infield line. I better be ready. Kevin signals the outfield to a line left, where we believe a big hit will go. But with the bases loaded, I signal the infield to stay put, which means Toby's usual setup at first base leading to second, and Davey at second leaning towards first. I have the gap between third and second, while Vince covers the runner tight at third. He's the only runner that matters right now. We cannot let him score. Bat in hand, Biff stands in the batter box. He sweeps the plate clean with his shoe, then sets his cleats firmly in the orange sand. He wraps both hands around the throat of his bat and swings a slow motion warm-up, showing Russ where he wants to pitch. Belt high, center. Like everyone here, he knows Russ is struggling. Now's his chance to take it all. A single brings a runner on third home and ties the game. A double brings a runner at second also home and wins it. A home run shames us forever. Biff gives Russ a shit-eating grin wide as a manhole cover and waits. I lean into my bend at the waist and bend at the knees position. I adjust my blue cap against the noonday sun, slap my glove with my right hand and chant, "Hey, batter, 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 hey, batter, batter." The infield and the outfield join in. We're a chorus now. Hey, batter, 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 over and over to distract the fearsome Biff. Biff couldn't care less. He raises his dinged-up Louisville slugger and stares right through Russ. Russ takes a sign from Kevin, but rejects it, shaking his head no. "Oh, geez," I mutter. Kevin shoots me a glance and rolls his eyes. A curveball. He gives Russ a sign, 2 fingers tapping his right inside thigh. Russ shakes it off. "Damn it, Russ." Kicking the field with my toe, I think, "Quit screwing around." Russ takes the third sign, and Kevin darts his eyes at me and then his right knee. It's the low outside fastball Kevin called for the first time. I slap my glove, crouch, and screw my eyes into the bat poised above Biff's shoulder. Ready. But Biff raises his hand. Calling for a timeout, he takes 2 steps out of the batter box, hiking his pants. Biff spits. Biff smiles. Biff rubs his hands and picks up his bat, stepping back in. He's toying with Russ. Everyone sees. Kevin calls for the same curveball as the first, and this time Russ agrees. "Hey, batter, 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 batter," the infield sings. Russ stands straight, eases his hands to his belt buckle and pauses. The player at third slides away from the bag 2, maybe 3 feet closer to home and score. Russ stares at him. The player stares back. It's a dangerous cat and mouse situation. "No, no, don't do it," screams my brain. If Russ twitches even a little towards the runner but doesn't throw to Vince at third to get the man out, that's a balk. A balk is a walk, and a walk ties the game. But Russ ain't taking the bait. He turns his head slowly towards home plate. His fluid left leg rises to his right hip, twisting his torso like a spring. His right arm stretching back, his right hand clutching the ball, his fingernails piercing the twin red seams. He thrusts forward in a hot rush and zings a fastball, big and fat, right down the center, waist high. Crack! A scalding sonic boom, line drive to my left, high over my head, so fast I cannot see it. I jump to its field instead, to where I think it should be, to where I want it to be, reaching my glove as far, whack! I catch it. I come down fast, but I open my glove real slow. The ball trapped in the pocket of my tan shoeless Joe mitt is hot and smoky. I can almost hear air molecules boiling off its surface. I can't take my eyes off it. I just stand there, stupefied. Not for long. I hear the runner on second making a beeline for third. His cleats rip through the infield, popping the rough sand like Rice Krispies in milk. I twist my ear and I jerk my head. I couldn't see the ball, but I see him. I pivot fast on my heel, bending to my left, spinning like a clock going backwards. I lash my arm sideways, snap my glove, and tag the flapping pockets of his fleeing butt. Out! The ump cries. Time stops. I am thunderstruck. 2 outs in 2 seconds. I stand there, dazed again, seared in place. What just happened? I made a double play. My teammates yell my name, Phil, Phil. Huh? What? I turn my molasses head. I blink lazily at their blurry bodies, jumping up and down, wavering like palm trees in a mirage, but pointing. Phil, third. I blink. Phil, third. I shake my head. Phil, third! They are on fire. Davey at second and Toby at first are waving their hands, yelling and screaming at me. Russ stands on the mound pointing with an outstretched arm, his eyes beseeching me to see the action at home plate. And when I finally do, I see Bill Sandusky huffing and puffing back to third from home. And then it hits me. He didn't tag up. Like us all, Bill thought the line drive rocketing off of Bitt's bat would burn a hole over the outfield fence, bounce in the parking lot, and smash a bunch of windshields. He took off running. All 3 runners did, which is why, with sheer dumb luck, I had just made a great catch, glided on a smooth pivot, and smacking my glove like a fly swatter, made 2 outs in 2 seconds. Now, here comes Bill. I know. I should be a good sport and throw the ball to Vince at third, making Bill out, number 3, game over. But I don't. I hate Bill Sandusky. I hate him a lot. He towers over us, pushing small kids like me around, and calls us names like shrimp, small fry, and dwarf. I hate his gap-toothed grin, his poop-on-fire breath, and his fat belly. Watching him bounce his flabby gut up the third base line makes me smile. His red cap falls to the track behind him, sweat pours down his face, his chest, and arms. I gaze at the third base bag, then at him. I give him a wink. He glares, but it's useless. Bill and I both know he can't get to third before I can. Throw me out, twerp, he yells. Throw me out, I'm dying here, he begs. I stare at him, our eyeballs on each other like snipers. Your mother wears combat boots, he taunts. That does it. No mercy. No mercy at all. Still smiling, but never taking my eyes off of him, I stroll over to Vince at third base and plop the ball into his yearning glove. Don't drop it, I say, calmly walking off the field. A triple play. Oh my God, a triple play all by myself. I can hardly grab a breath, yet I run around the grass dancing a boogie-woogie. From the field, the players break into a dead heat. From the dugout, the team explodes off the bench. All of the guys and the coaches rush higgly-piggly, yelling and screaming, slapping me on the back, pushing, shoving, and lifting me on their shoulders, shouting, hooray! I break out laughing. I can't stop. For this one moment, these 20 silver seconds hoisted in the air, the clouds open, and the sun gleams down on my great big grin. It feels so good. I am a hero.
Hear it jingle.
Oh,
Don't spend it all in one
all right, replace the jersey.
All right, we are just about at the conclusion of today's events.
Can you talk about the plaque?
I am going to. So Phil walked off without his plaque because it is a perpetual trophy plaque that will be on display at the office of the Auburn Journal with this year's winner, Philip Jupp, triple, and then next year's, and the year after, and the year after that. Are we hoping this is going to become an annual event?
Yes.
So my vision, at least, and we have mentioned this a few times, since we gave the fiction writers a chance this year, I think it's only fair we give the nonfiction and memoirists a chance next year. So be looking for that. A couple of things. Susan's going to come up and do the closing statements, but we wanted to make sure that you are aware of the receptions downstairs. Please come, please socialize, network, celebrate, hang out. But after that, there is a celebration lunch at Max's with our guest speaker, Laurel Ann Hill.
She went downstairs.
Okay, she's already downstairs. Everybody is more than welcome to come and have lunch at Max's. It's the restaurant behind In-N-Out Burger at the hotel. They used to be a hotel restaurant, but now it's Max's. So, yes, Frank?
Time.
The time for dinner.
Oh, the time for the dinner isn't until 5 o'clock, so we have time to rest, circulate, hang out, recoup, and so it is actually a dinner at Max's at 5. Thank you. All right, without further ado, our president of Gold Country Writers, and give a warm welcome to Susan Korn.
Well, that was great, and I, like everybody else, was really enjoying that. Phil did a fantastic job, and so did the other two winners. Congratulations to the winners and the finalists. Our celebration continues downstairs in the Rose Room. We invite all of you to join us for refreshments, meet and greet, and book signing with our keynote speaker, Laurel Ann Hill. Plus, meet the contest winners and the finalists. Please complete your survey. That's the only way we know if we need improvement or suggestions, or if you truly enjoyed this. I sure did. And you see these little tickets here? Take one and drop it off upstairs. There's going to be some good raffles. I was very impressed with Margie and what she was able to do for us. So that's it. That's it. Thank you very much. You never fail me, Gold Country Riders. You're always a success. So thank you.